The smell of burnt toast curled around the corners of the kitchen cabinets, mixing with the sound of a spoon gently clinking against a bowl. Caleb Rivers waved a towel at the smoke alarm before it had a chance to scream, his tie still hanging loose around his neck and shirt sleeves rolled sloppily to his elbows. His phone buzzed again. Another email, another reminder that he was running late for a meeting he didn't want to attend. At the table, Noah sat with his chin resting in his hands, his backpack already strapped on, slightly too big for his small frame. A cartoon lunchbox sat in front of him unopened, but he said nothing, just watched his father with those soft, tired eyes that always seemed to carry more weight than a child should. Caleb gave up on the toast, tossed it into the trash, and reached for the cereal instead, pouring it halfway into a bowl and sloshing in the milk without much grace. "Here you go, champ," he said, placing it in front of Noah with a tired smile that didn't quite meet his eyes. "Thanks, Daddy," Noah murmured, his voice barely rising over the hum of the refrigerator. Caleb crouched beside him, trying not to notice the dark circles under the boy's eyes or the way his shoulders sagged like they'd grown too heavy to hold up on their own. "Big day today," he offered. "Math quiz, right?" Noah nodded, already spooning cereal into his mouth quietly. Caleb stood, straightened his tie in the hallway mirror, and tried not to let the ache in his chest swell. "I'm flying out tonight," he said gently, "just for 4 days. Miss Patterson will pick you up from school, and you'll stay with Grandma Ruth over the weekend. Sound good?" Noah paused, spoon halfway to his mouth. "Can't I come with you?" Caleb smiled, but it tightened around the corners. "I wish, buddy. This one's boring. Just meetings and old people talking about spreadsheets." Noah gave a small nod and went back to eating. Caleb turned away so his son wouldn't see the expression on his face, the quiet dread that came every time he had to leave. He hated it. The leaving, the absence. The way it never got easier, no matter how many times he promised himself it was just a few days. Leah would have known what to do. He thought of her more often than he admitted, especially during mornings like this, missing socks, lopsided ponytails, and cereal puddles on the floor. Leah used to hum while folding laundry, used to dance barefoot in the kitchen with Noah on her hip, used to laugh so hard during movie nights she'd snort and make Noah giggle uncontrollably. But Leah was gone now, lost to complications no one had seen coming, leaving Caleb with a newborn in one arm and the kind of silence that never fully left the room. For 8 years he had been trying to figure it out, to hold it all together, some days better than others, most days just survival. "Let's get you to school," he said, grabbing his laptop bag and keys. Noah moved beside him like they had done it 100 times before, grabbing his lunchbox, checking his backpack twice, locking the door behind them. In the car, Caleb played the same radio station they always listened to. Noah stared out the window in silence. At a red light, Caleb glanced at him. "You okay, buddy?" Noah nodded. "You sure?" Another nod, his eyes still fixed on the passing trees. Caleb wanted to ask more, wanted to ask if he still missed Leah as much as he did, or if the new house felt like home yet, or if staying with Ruth and Ms. Patterson again made him nervous. But the light turned green, and the words stayed tangled in his throat. At the school drop-off line, Caleb leaned over and kissed Noah's forehead. "Be good. Make me proud." "I will." Noah got out of the car, his backpack bouncing behind him. He turned once, gave a small wave, then disappeared into the building. Caleb sat there for the long moment, the car idling beneath him. He didn't know that in a few months everything would change, that the woman he let into their lives, into Noah's quiet world, would not be who she seemed. But for now, It was just the two of them. And Caleb thought that was enough. The first time he met her, he wasn't even looking. It was at a fundraiser for a local children's hospital, one of those events where people sipped expensive wine and laughed politely at things that weren't funny. Caleb had shown up because a business partner had begged him to. He wore the wrong tie and spent most of the night thinking about Noah's science fair project. Then she walked over to his table. She had a presence, not loud but deliberate, the kind of confidence that made people pause. Her burgundy dress was simple, elegant, and her smile was calm, steady. "Caleb Rivers?" she asked, extending her hand. "Yes," he said, standing. "And you are?" "Vanessa Hale. I think our sons go to the same school. My son, Cameron, he's in the grade above yours." That caught his attention. They talked for 20 minutes before the salad even arrived. Then again during dessert. She was divorced, left her husband when Cameron was 5. She didn't pity him when he mentioned Leah. She didn't fumble or offer forced sympathy. That was rare. The next morning, she sent him a message through the school's parent network, thanking him for the conversation. It was short, casual. He replied, then she replied, then coffee, then lunch, then dinner. By the end of the month, she and Cameron were sitting in Caleb's living room, and Noah was peeking out from behind his father's arm like a rabbit, too timid to step into the sun. Cameron, taller than most boys his age and unusually serious, gave a quiet nod and sat on the couch while Vanessa helped with dishes. "I hope this isn't too much for Noah," she said, glancing at him with care. "I know it's a lot." Caleb appreciated that. She wasn't pushy. She didn't force affection. She didn't try to be a replacement. Instead, she sent over dinner when Caleb had late meetings, offered to take the boys to the park, brought cough drops and ginger tea when Noah had a cold. Slowly, gently, Caleb relaxed. His sister Maya noticed. "You seem lighter," she said one Sunday on the porch. "Like you're breathing again." He didn't deny it. Vanessa didn't feel like someone new. She felt like someone who had always been meant to arrive eventually. One chilly Saturday, they went to the zoo. Noah held tightly to Caleb's hand until they reached the penguins. Then, without prompting, he tugged on Cameron's sleeve and asked if he liked them too. "They're okay," Cameron shrugged. Noah smiled, small but real. That night, after tucking him in, Caleb sat on the edge of Noah's bed longer than usual. "She's nice," he said carefully. "Vanessa." Noah, eyes half closed, nodded. "She smells like cinnamon," Caleb chuckled. "She does." A pause. "Are you going to marry her?" Caleb's heart stumbled. He smoothed the blanket over Noah's chest. "Do you want me to?" Noah didn't answer. He looked at the ceiling and whispered, "Can I still have my moonlight?" Caleb's smile was quiet, full of things he couldn't say. "Always." 2 months later, he proposed. It wasn't fireworks. Caleb wasn't that kind of man. He took her to the same bench where they'd had their third date, overlooking the river, and handed her a small box with a quiet, "Let's do this together." She said yes. They married in spring. A small garden ceremony. Noah and Cameron as ring bearers. Noah wore a gray suit and clenched his fists tight the whole time. Caleb noticed him glancing around, as if waiting for someone to stop it all. But the ceremony ended in laughter and photos. Everyone said it was the start of something beautiful. For a while, Caleb believed it too. The house was livelier. Cameron's heavier steps echoed down the hallway. Vanessa hummed while cooking. The laundry piled higher. Noah's room moved farther down the hallway. Caleb barely noticed. He was traveling more now, told himself things were stable, that Vanessa had it handled, that the boys were fine. He left emergency numbers on the fridge, hugged Noah hard before each trip, called every night. Noah answered with the same quiet voice each time. Told him everything was fine, but it wasn't, and Caleb didn't know, not yet. That the woman he had trusted had taken the kindness of a child and turned it into something silent and scared. That his son had learned to hide again. That behind the neat house and polite texts and staged family photos, something cruel was beginning to bloom. And Caleb would only see it when it was almost too late. For now, it still looked like love. The smell of burnt toast drifted through the quiet kitchen, curling around the corners of the wooden cabinets like a ghost of a forgotten mornings. Caleb Rivers waved a dish towel at the smoke alarm, silently pleading it wouldn't screech again like it had last Tuesday. His tie was hanging unevenly around his neck, his white shirt rumpled at the sleeves, and his eyes carried the exhaustion of someone who had barely slept. At the small kitchen table, 8-year-old Noah sat with his chin in his hands, watching his father with soft, silent eyes that seemed to understand more than any child should. His backpack, a size too big, was already strapped to his shoulders, and a small lunchbox decorated with a cartoon astronaut sat untouched in front of him. He didn't speak. He just watched, patiently, like a child who had grown used to waiting. Caleb finally gave up on the toast and tossed the charred slice into the trash. He poured cereal onto a bowl, added milk that was dangerously close to its expiration date, and slid the bowl in front of his son. "Here you go, champ," he said, with a forced smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Thanks, Daddy." Caleb ruffled Noah's thick curls gently. "Big day today, huh? Math quiz, right?" Noah nodded, already spooning cereal into his mouth. Caleb crouched next to him, trying not to see the dark circles beneath his son's eyes or the way his shoulders hunched slightly, like he was bracing for impact. Noah was only 8, but sometimes he looked older than Caleb felt. There was a heaviness to him, a stillness that made Caleb ache. "I'm flying out tonight," he said gently, "just for 4 days. Miss Patterson will pick you up from school, and then you'll stay with Grandma Margie on the weekend. Okay?" Noah paused, spoon midair. "Can I come with you?" Caleb's smile faltered. His chest tightened. "I wish you could, buddy. But it's all boring grown-up stuff. Meetings, more meetings. No fun." Noah gave a small nod and returned to his cereal without another word. Caleb stood and turned toward the sink so Noah wouldn't see the look on his face. He hated leaving. It never got easier. But work didn't care that he was a single father or that his son still had nightmares unless the moonlight was left on. Leah would have known what to do. She always had. She used to hum while folding laundry, dance in the kitchen with Noah in her arms, laugh so hard during movie nights that tears ran down her cheeks. But Leah was gone. Complications during childbirth stole her away, leaving Caleb with a newborn in one arm and a silence so loud it nearly swallowed him whole. For 8 years he'd done his best. Some days were decent. Most were survival. He straightened his tie, checked the time, and grabbed his laptop bag. "Come on, let's get you to school." They moved in tandem, a team of 2 who knew the routine. Noah grabbed his lunchbox, double-checked his backpack, and locked the front door behind them. In the car, Caleb played their usual radio station. Noah stared out the window, quiet. At a red light, Caleb glanced over. "You okay, buddy?" Noah nodded. "You sure?" Another nod, still staring at the window. Caleb wanted to ask more, to ask if he still missed Leah, if he liked their new house, if he was really okay staying with Grandma again, but the light turned green and the questions caught in his throat. At the school drop-off lane, Caleb leaned over and kissed Noah's forehead. "Be good. Make me proud." "I will." Noah stepped out, backpack bouncing against his back, turned to wave once, then walked into the building. Caleb sat there for a beat, watching the doors swallow his son. He rubbed his face, started the engine, and pulled away. He didn't know that in just a few months everything would change, that the woman he let into their lives would not be who she seemed, that the mask would fall slowly, painfully, and the cost would nearly break them both. For now, it was still just the two of them, and Caleb believed naively that it was enough. The first time Caleb met her, he wasn't even looking. It was a fundraising gala for a children's hospital, one of those elegant events filled with small talk and wine no one could pronounce. He'd been dragged there by a business partner out of obligation. His tie was too tight, and his mind was still on Noah's science project, a baking soda volcano that kept erupting prematurely. She walked over with that kind of grace that made people pause. Her burgundy dress was elegant but simple, her smile warm, easy, her eyes the kind that scanned the room before deciding to belong in it. "Caleb Rivers, right?" she said, holding out her hand. He stood, shook it politely. "Yes, and you are?" "Vanessa Hale. I think our sons go to the same school. My son Cameron is in the grade above yours." That caught his attention. They spoke for 20 minutes before dinner, again during dessert. She was divorced, had left her husband when Cameron was 5. Said she knew what it meant to raise a child alone. She didn't pity him, didn't gush or offer empty condolences when Leah came up. That was rare. The next morning, she sent an email through the school's parent network, thanking him for the conversation. It was short and friendly. He replied. Then she replied. Then coffee, then lunch. By the end of the month, she and Cameron came over for dinner. Noah was quiet, clung to Caleb's side, peeking out like a rabbit unsure of the light. Cameron, all for his age and quiet, nodded once and sat on the couch while Vanessa made conversation. "I hope this isn't too weird for Noah," she said. "I know it's a big change." Caleb appreciated her caution. She didn't try to hug Noah or force a connection. Instead, she helped with dishes and let Cameron share his math workbook like a peace offering. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa found ways to be present. Not too much, just enough. She'd drop off meals when Caleb worked late, offer to take the boys to the park. When Noah had a cough, she sent ginger tea and cough drops, claiming her grandmother swore by them. Caleb began to relax. "You seem lighter," his sister Brooke said one Sunday sitting on the porch with him. "Like you're breathing again." Caleb shrugged, but he didn't disagree. He hadn't thought he was ready for someone new. But Vanessa didn't feel new. She felt like someone who understood the weight he carried and maybe, just maybe, wanted to help carry it with him. One chilly Saturday, they all went to the zoo. Noah clung to Caleb's hand most of the time, but at the penguin exhibit, he surprised everyone by tugging Cameron's sleeve and asking, "Do you like them too?" Cameron nodded. "They're okay." Noah smiled. It wasn't wide, but it was real. That night, Caleb tucked him in and sat on the edge of the mattress. "She's nice," he said softly. "Vanessa?" Noah's eyes were half closed, but he nodded. "She smells like cinnamon." Caleb chuckled. "She does." A pause. "Are you going to marry her?" Caleb's heart paused. He smoothed his son's covers. "Do you want me to?" Noah didn't answer right away. He looked at the ceiling. "Can I still have my moonlight?" Caleb smiled sadly. "Always." 2 months later, he proposed. It wasn't fireworks and grand gestures. Caleb wasn't that kind of man. But it was thoughtful, quiet. He took her to the same riverside bench from their third date, handed her a small box. "Let's do this together," he said. She said yes. They got married in the spring. Nothing fancy. A small garden ceremony. Noah and Cameron were ring bearers. Noah wore a gray suit, clenched his hands tight through most of it. Caleb noticed. He kept glancing around like he was waiting for something to fall apart. But it didn't. At least, not yet. The ceremony ended with laughter, cake, and pictures filled with hope. Everyone said it was the beginning of something beautiful. And for a while, Caleb believed it too. The house filled with new sounds, Cameron's footsteps, Vanessa's humming, the dryer buzzing with bigger loads. Noah's room was moved. Caleb didn't notice at first how far down the hallway it was now. He was traveling more. Now that things are settled, he told himself, I can take longer trips. She's got things handled. The boys are fine. He left emergency numbers on the fridge, hugged Noah tight before flights, called every night. And each time, Noah answered quietly and said everything was fine. Everything was not fine. But Caleb didn't know that. Not yet. Not until the night he came home early. Not until he saw the truth for himself. But for now, the house seemed full, and Caleb let himself believe that was enough. It had been 5 days since Vanessa and Cameron left the house, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the silence that settled into the walls was not one of fear or tension, but one of relief. Caleb sat on the living room couch, one arm wrapped gently around Noah, who leaned into his side, their favorite cartoon playing softly on the screen, a relic from the days when Leah used to sing the theme song with exaggerated voices just to make her baby boy laugh. Caleb had almost forgotten what it felt like to exhale without guilt. That morning, he had made pancakes from scratch, burnt the first two, dropped a bottle of syrup, nearly set off the smoke alarm again, but Noah laughed and Caleb laughed with him. That sound, pure and bright, cut through layers of doubt like sunshine after months of cloud. After breakfast, Caleb called the school and asked to speak with Mrs. Long. Her voice didn't carry surprise, only a quiet understanding. And when he said, "I was hoping to talk about Noah," she sighed and replied, "I've been hoping you would." They spoke for 20 minutes. She told him about the shift in Noah's drawings, the way he flinched when voices rose, how he stopped participating the way he used to. Caleb listened with a knot in his chest, every word confirming what he should have seen sooner. When he apologized, Mrs. Long didn't let him spiral into self-blame. "You saw it now," she said gently, "and that's what matters." He thanked her and hung up with trembling fingers, then called his attorney. The house had always been in his name, the bank accounts untouched. But he wanted to make things clear, official. No contact, no shared custody, no chance for Vanessa to return, no matter how many letters or sweet apologies she might try to send. And she did. 3 days later, a message popped up in his inbox, long, handwritten, photographed, and attached with a subject line that read, "For Noah's sake." She spoke of misunderstanding, of how stress had made her say things she didn't mean, how Cameron missed his little brother, and how maybe they could try again, maybe talk over dinner like adults. Caleb read the message once, closed it, and deleted it without replying. Forgiveness was a personal journey, but protection that was a father's responsibility. That evening, Caleb sat at the kitchen table with Noah after dinner. The dishes were still in the sink, syrup stains still fresh from breakfast, and the kitchen smelled faintly of cinnamon and dish soap. "I want to talk to you about something," Caleb said carefully. Noah looked up from his cup of milk, curiosity in his eyes, but no fear. "Something important," Caleb added. He reached across the table and took his son's small hand, warm and soft, still with syrup on one finger. "You never have to pretend again, not with me. If something hurts you or someone makes you feel small, you tell me. Always." Noah's eyes glistened, and for a moment he looked like the little boy he hadn't been allowed to be for far too long. "I was scared," he whispered. "I know," Caleb replied, his voice steady, though a storm swirled inside his chest. "And I'm going to do better. From now on, it's just me and you. We're a team, okay?" Noah nodded and didn't look away this time. Instead, he leaned forward and slid his hand into his father's with trust, with intention. "I love you, Dad." Caleb squeezed back. "I love you more than anything in this world." The days that followed were a slow rebuild, like piecing together something fragile with patience and tenderness. Caleb stopped working late. He canceled 2 upcoming business trips and told his assistant he needed time off. Indefinite. If that's a problem, then make it permanent. She didn't argue. Everyone at the office had noticed the shift. He was still sharp, still Caleb Rivers, but something in his eyes had changed. He picked Noah up from school every day. Sometimes they got ice cream. Sometimes they just walked home in silence, fingers linked, letting the wind carry away everything they didn't know how to say. One afternoon, Caleb found a new drawing taped to the fridge. It was a house, brightly colored, with a sun in the corner, and 2 stick figures standing on the porch. Just 2. He stared at it for a long time, his hand resting gently on the corner of the paper, as if afraid to crease it. They started going to therapy together. At first, Noah didn't say much. He sat curled into himself like a leaf after rain, shoulders tight, answers short. But the therapist was gentle, with warm eyes and a soft voice, and slowly Noah began to speak. He spoke of the night he was locked outside, of being called names, of how Cameron would turn off the bathroom light and laugh. Caleb listened, fists clenched, guilt like acid in his gut, but Noah never blamed him. That hurt more than if he had. "I didn't want you to be sad," the boy said during one session. "I just wanted you to be happy." Caleb had to excuse himself after that. He stood in the hallway outside the room, breathing hard, hands on his knees. That weekend, they went on a short road trip, just the 2 of them. Nothing fancy, a cabin by the lake, s'mores over a fire pit, long walks in silence. But it was healing. One evening, while roasting marshmallows, Noah looked up and asked, "Do you think Mom would be proud of us?" Caleb blinked, the stars blurring for a second. "I think she'd be proud of you," he said slowly, "for being strong, for staying kind, for never giving up." Noah leaned his head on his father's shoulder. "And you?" Caleb smiled softly. "I'm working on it." The boy gave a small nod. "You're doing a good job." Caleb didn't speak. He didn't trust his voice. He just stared into the fire, holding on to that moment like a lifeline. A few days after they returned, another letter came. This one in actual ink and paper, left at the mailbox in an unmarked envelope. It was Vanessa, again. She wrote about Cameron missing Noah, about therapy she had started, about how people make mistakes. Caleb folded the letter once, twice, then dropped it into the trash without a word. He didn't even show Noah. There was nothing to be gained. That door was shut. That chapter burned. On a warm summer morning, as sunlight painted lazy lines across the kitchen tiles, Caleb flipped pancakes while Noah sat barefoot at the table, building a Lego city. Music played softly in the background, an old tune Leah used to hum while folding laundry. But this house wasn't frozen in memory anymore. It was alive. It had healed. "Dad," Noah said without looking up, "if I build a hospital, can we make a sign that says 'No mean people allowed'?" Caleb grinned, flipping the last pancake. "Absolutely. Make that the first rule." Noah smiled, a real one, and Caleb felt something in his chest unlock. He wasn't a perfect father. He had missed things. He had failed. But he had also listened. He had chosen his son, again and again. And in that choice he had found his redemption. 6 months later, the summer sun filtered gently through the wide kitchen windows, painting warm golden streaks across the wooden floor. Caleb stood barefoot by the stove, flipping pancakes with practiced ease as soft jazz hummed from the little Bluetooth speaker on the counter. The same song Leah used to hum on Saturday mornings when they danced around the kitchen with Noah in her arms. But today the air wasn't filled with ghosts. It was alive. It was real. This was a house no longer shadowed by grief or regret. It had taken pain and truth to reach this stillness, but now it felt earned. At the kitchen table, Noah sat with one leg tucked under the other, intently focused on building a miniature Lego city, his curls longer, fuller, his cheeks pink with health and peace. There was a calmness to him now that hadn't existed before, not the kind born from silence or fear, but from safety. "Daddy," he said, without looking up, "if I build a hospital, can we put a sign that says 'No mean people allowed'?" Caleb smiled, flipping a pancake onto the growing stack beside him. "Absolutely," he said. "Make that the first law of the whole city." Noah grinned and reached for another brick. The memory of locked doors, cold tile, and whispered threats was still there, but it no longer had power. Caleb had taken a long look at his life after Vanessa and Cameron left. He had stepped back from work, handed the reins of his company temporarily to a trusted partner, and told the board he needed time. They hadn't understood, but he didn't care. He didn't owe them explanations. He owed Noah a father. They started therapy together. The first few sessions were mostly silence. Noah sitting with his hands folded, eyes on the floor, and Caleb watching him with his heart clenched. But slowly, like spring thaw in winter, the boy began to speak. He talked about the night he was left outside, about how Vanessa called him stupid, how Cameron would twist things and laugh when no one stopped him, how he was scared every time Caleb packed a bag. Caleb listened to every word, fists tight in his lap, jaw locked with guilt, but Noah never once blamed him. That was the part that shattered him. They traveled, too. Just the two of them. Road trips to the mountains, walks in the park, and weekends building forts out of couch cushions. Caleb made good on every promise he had postponed. They built new memories out of quiet, laughter, burnt marshmallows, and pillow fights. One evening, sitting by a small fire pit in the backyard, Noah leaned his head on his father's shoulder and asked, "Do you think Mom would be proud of us?" Caleb blinked at the stars, swallowing hard. "I think she'd be proud of you," he said, voice soft, "for how strong you are, how kind you stayed, even when the world wasn't." Noah looked up at him, serious as always. "What about you?" Caleb hesitated. "I'm working on it." Noah smiled. "You're doing a good job." Caleb kissed his forehead, and in that moment, he knew they were going to be okay. One day, a letter arrived in a pale blue envelope. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Vanessa. It was 3 pages long, handwritten, full of circular phrases, apologies that weren't really apologies, regret without true accountability. She said Cameron missed Noah. She said she missed being a family. Caleb read it once, silently, then tore it in half and threw it away. He didn't even tell Noah about it. Forgiveness was one thing, protection was another. He had made a promise, and he intended to keep it. On a quiet Saturday morning, Caleb made pancakes again, his way of anchoring joy to routine. He burned the first few, cursed under his breath, and accidentally dropped the syrup bottle. Noah laughed, a sound so free it made Caleb's chest ache with pride. They ate together at the kitchen table, leaning in close over mismatched plates. Afterward, as they rinsed dishes side by side, Caleb turned and said, "Want to go to the park today? I heard there's a kite festival." Noah's eyes lit up. "Can we fly one, too?" Caleb nodded. "You bet we can." "And get ice cream after?" Caleb pretended to groan. "Now you're pushing it." Noah laughed, a full, unguarded laugh that echoed through the house and made it feel alive. Caleb leaned back against the counter, just watching him, taking in every detail, from the brightness in his son's eyes to the relaxed curve of his shoulders. That laugh was everything. That light was redemption. Later that afternoon, they stood in the middle of a wide green field, trying to get a red kite into the air. Caleb ran ahead, tugging the string, while Noah followed close behind, shouting instructions. The wind picked up, the kite lifted, and suddenly it was soaring. Noah clapped, dancing on his toes. Caleb lowered himself to the grass, breathless, heart full, and watched his son trace joy across the sky. In that open space, under blue skies and drifting clouds, the past felt far away. There were no shadows there, just a boy and his father, the wind, and a promise kept. That night, after brushing his teeth and changing into soft pajamas, Noah climbed into bed and curled beneath his favorite blanket. Caleb sat in the armchair by the window, the little moonlight plugged in and glowing like a quiet sentinel. Noah blinked slowly, his voice a whisper. "I'm not scared anymore." Caleb looked over. "What do you mean?" "I don't have to keep secrets," he said, eyes already half closed. "I don't have to pretend." Caleb swallowed the ache rising in his throat. He stood, walked over and knelt by the bed, brushing a hand through Noah's curls. "You never did," he said gently, "and you never will again." They had come through the storm. They had made it. And now, in this house built on truth, Caleb finally felt at home. Not because everything was perfect, but because it was real. And that was more than enough.